Welcome to another edition of the Craig Carton Show. Hope you had a wonderful, healthy, and happy Thanksgiving weekend. Tyron A. Johnson here. We got lots cooking today. And who would have thought the first day of December, college football rears its ugly head? Look, the NCAA is a complete mess, and it just proves over and over again that's a rudderless ship. But of course, Lane Kiffin decides to do what Lane Kiffin does. You know, when a certain Motown group about 80 years ago wrote the song "Papa Was a Rolling Stone," how would they have known it would have been the theme song for Lane Kiffin? But that's what he is. So let's first off agree that no one should be surprised that Lane Kiffin found a shiny object in the corner that all of a sudden got his attention and decided to go for it. That's what Lane Kiffin does. He doesn't hang around all that much. Matter of fact, 6 years in Mississippi is the longest he's been anywhere at any time of his adult life. Matter of fact, you see him right there getting on a plane. You got a handful of lunatic fans from Ole Miss cursing him out as he gets on the plane to go down or up, wherever the heck it is, to LSU to become their new head coach.
It's down.
I can't figure that part out. Is Mississippi high, north, or south? I don't know.
It's north of it.
Two places I'll probably never be, I can tell you that. They're not fans of my people, as you might know, in either one of those states. And I'm not talking about white people. But look, listen, you know, when someone offers you $90+ million, and that's what the deal is. I think it's $91 million, and there's incentives to get over 100 based on national championships and that type of stuff. And they've got the greatest facilities in college football, and they're willing to write huge checks to a lot of guys to come play. It's hard to say no to that. When you're in the middle of the greatest season the college rat has ever had, Ole Miss, and that's just another decent year for LSU. Expectation is a part of this also. But the thing that gets me the most about this whole Lane Kiffin nonsense is the fact that there are people out there, I've heard them, you've heard them, on TV, on the radio, online, etc., that think that Ole Miss in some way, shape, or form has wronged him by not allowing him to coach Ole Miss throughout the tournament. And to me, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Ole Miss has no responsibility to let a Benedict Arnold turncoat continue to coach because it's good for him. That's not good for them. It's not good for the kids that he has now turned his back on. It's not good for the assistant coaches that he's now left in the lurch as he goes on to greener pastures and a lot more money to go coach at LSU. So if you have any self-respect at all, and clearly, and I give them credit, Ole Miss does, if you've decided that we're no longer the right place for you, it doesn't matter the reason. Goodbye. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. You will not have the benefit of coaching our boys, our team, with our other assistant coaches if your heart is somewhere else. So the fact that there are people out there suggesting, and I saw the interview Lane did, I forget the reporter's name, like at the private jet terminal before I got on the plane to go to LSU.
I think that was Marty Smith.
Okay, who did a great job, by the way, getting that interview and all that, and I give him a lot of credit for it. Lane Kiffin tried his hardest to show respect for Ole Miss. He failed miserably. Lane Kiffin tried his hardest to say that he understands the decision. He failed miserably. Lane Kiffin wanted his cake and he wanted to eat it too. That's what he has always done. And the fascinating thing about Lane Kiffin is that after he went to Alabama, made a couple $1 million a year being their offensive coordinator, and kind of rebuilt his reputation nationwide under the auspices of the greatest college coach of our lifetimes, for sure at Alabama, you might have thought that he would have grown up. You might have thought that he would have matured. You might have thought that he would have recognized, hey, the way things ended in Tennessee wasn't really cool. Hey, leaving FAU after 2 years to go back to major college football maybe wasn't great. Hey, my failure with the Raiders maybe wasn't great. USC maybe wasn't great. And on and on and on. But yet here we are, you know, a guy about 50 years old, just shy of 50 years old, and he cannot change who he is at the core of who he is. And I'm not quite sure why we expected him to. This is what this guy does. And if there's a team willing to write him a big check, well, you could say shame on them, except for one thing. no matter where he's gone, take the NFL out of that, Lane Kiffin, except for 1 year, has been successful. Lane Kiffin is rightly regarded as one of, if not the greatest current college coaches in all of America. You could debate that. If you want to tell me it's Signetti, I'm not going to argue with you. If you want to tell me it's Freeman, I'm not going to argue with you. There are other obviously very good coaches.
Yeah, Ryan Day around the same age at Ohio
Day's
State.
won a national championship. Yeah. He's at Ohio State. They're playing for another Big Ten championship. Meaningless game, of course, coming up against Indiana because they're both in the tournament. But, man, like, I wasn't shocked. Like, I don't know how you could have been shocked by what Lane Kiffin did. The only thing that I disagree with in regards to what other commentators have had to say is the role that Ole Miss plays in this. Ole Miss did everything right. They told him they would match any offer.
Yep.
They told him if there's certain issues with, the weight room, the clubhouse, the this, to that, they would improve it.
Yep.
They told him the boosters have signed on to write large checks so that Ole Miss always has a crack at the top quarterback that's transferring or coming out of high school every single year. They offered him everything, but the shiny object in the corner got his attention. So if you're Ole Miss, and I've heard a lot of people make silly analogies, I'm not going to bore you with an analogy. You don't need an analogy for Americans to understand what happened here. Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me, or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave.
Yep.
He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really. But go ahead. Take your stuff with you. Get on the jet. And we'll see you on the playing field sometime in the future. But Ole Miss did the right thing also. Ole Miss said, if our offer of matching what LSU gave you isn't enough, if you always want to find a different opportunity, so be it. But we are not going to embarrass ourselves and allow you, and we recognize you built the program back up. You get all the credit in the world for being a great college coach and bringing us to the precipice of our only national championship, right? But we are not going to embarrass ourselves. We are not going to allow you to stay on the sideline after turning your back on our kids, our coaching staff, the 40 or so thousand people that go to Ole Miss. If you want out, then get out. And I fully support what Ole Miss did in that regard. They did nothing wrong. I love the fact they already promoted the defensive coordinator, not to interim coach. He's now their coach. I love that. So they're not going through this nonsense of, well, you're going to coach us in the tournament, but we're going to go find out the next great available coach. You put the time in. The kids love you. They respect you. You're the new guy. So good for him and good for Ole Miss.
Yeah, Pete Golding, the new head coach, DC, from the area, and they also know that he wants to be there. And I think that's the other part that people are understanding. Once Lane decides he doesn't want to be there, regardless of the reason,
get out.
You don't beg a guy to stay, and you definitely don't let him continue to coach players. And they'll say, "Oh, he's going to try to get him to transfer anyway."
Look,
but you don't let him do it from in the building.
Here's what he's
not
going
from
to
in
do.
the building.
Like the notion of, hey, if you let him coach in the playoffs, he's not going to poach players and coaches. Yeah, he is.
Yes, he is.
Because he'd be stupid not to.
Of course he would.
So the notion of him not going after players on the roster or other coaches that he wants to be a part of his new coaching staff has nothing to do with whether or not you allow him to coach in the playoffs. Now, one final thing in this, it's got nothing to do with Lane Kiffin or Ole Miss. The NCAA is broken. You should not be, it just makes no sense that you've got the transfer portal at the same time as the freaking playoff.
Ridiculous.
So that's from a player standpoint.
Ridiculous.
That you have players out of the 12 teams that are going to be participating in the playoff in a couple weeks who are going to have to announce that they're putting themselves in the portal because there's a timeline and a deadline for when you have to do that. So for me, players should not be allowed to enter the portal, and coaches should not be allowed to transfer to other schools to become head coaches until after the championship game. It's crazy to me that we're about to start the playoff, and you have hundreds of kids who now have to enter the portal and coaches that are leaving also. That makes no sense. We got lots more coming.